gents, welcome to War Thunder with Mags, and welcome aboard the US Marine Corps F4U. Now this variant of the Corsair was added in patch 1.39, and for all intents and purposes it's exactly the same as the F4U-1a that was already in the tech tree, the naval version. The only true differences in this aircraft to the naval version in-game is this version lacks a tailhook. And from an historical standpoint, this is correct. The US Marine Corps flew their Corsairs from captured runways on islands in the Pacific. They never flew them off carriers, so the tailhook was something that was not necessary to them. Historically, the US Marine Corps did carry larger bomb loads on their Corsairs than the naval versions, but this was no change in regards to the airframe that allowed this. It was mainly due to the fact that, due to having land-based runways, they weren't restricted to the length of a carrier deck in order to be able to take off. Having that extra runway meant they had more time to get to speed with a heavier bomb load on, and therefore could get these machines into the air with heavier ordnance. This currently is not reflected in game. The US Marine Corps Corsair carries exactly the same bomb load as the already existent F4U-1a. It largely doesn't matter. It's very, very, very rare to see any fighters in the game, in any game mode, actually carrying bomb loads on their aircraft. So if they did add the historical bomb loads that were larger to this variant of the Corsair, it's likely nobody would use them anyway. So takeoff was pretty standard in this match. Took off, climbed towards the enemy runway. As soon as enemy targets presented themselves, turned 45 degrees to them so I could select my attack angles. I did a couple of burst climbs in between to get the Corsair up to altitude that little bit faster. I'm now levelled out and trying to maintain over 300 kilometers an hour, so I'm ready to engage in combat. I begin searching for first targets. Now I've had a 190 disappear in the clouds above me. I'm not entirely sure where it's at. I am going to look for it first. There is another fighter below me on the deck, but it is a HE-112 and I'm not giving up 11,000 feet's worth of altitude to go down and shoot an Era 1 fighter. Not when there's other aircraft that are likely in this cloud surrounding me at the moment or already above me. It's already being engaged on the ground. I just have to find this 190 that's just vanished into the clouds. And, well, I don't find it, but I find a couple of its buddies. So first targets are moving to engage our B-25. The 109 is on my tail. It's engaging a second fighter in the clouds, so we are all fine. Our B-25 is about to get attacked by this BF-110 as well as a number of other aircraft that are over in this area. So I'm going to go help the B-25 out first. So second and third target have just come up. They've just been red boxed. They're both BF-109s, also moving to attack the B-25. Time to move in and assist. Now, this is one of the first things that I found with patch 1.41 and all the new BR ratings. This happens a lot. You'll notice, this is a Marine Corps Corsair. This is the top of Era 2. That's a 112 back on the ground and a BF-110 in the same match. These guys shouldn't be here. Don't get me wrong, the 110 is a great plane and I do like flying my 112s, but they are not comparable aircraft to things like the Corsair. I am fairly unhappy with how 1.41 has handled the BR ratings and the matchmaking. But nevertheless, that's what I've been presented with. I'm going to start removing them. Now the 110 is very manoeuvrable for a twin-engine heavy fighter and is armed with two 20mm cannons and a load of ammunition. I don't want it getting in on my tail, so I'm going to remove it first. First shot's fired, ripple it across the guns. Loop around a tail. Missed those shots there, I didn't give anywhere near enough lead. Begin second turn. Solid hits. More across the tail, and I'm just rippling his tail full of holes at the moment. There's very little this guy can do to get away from this Corsair. The only thing that made him survive as long as he does is the 110's ability to soak damage is actually very, very, very good for an aircraft of its era. So with his tail basically shredded and his left engine on fire, I just leave him alone, no point in following him beyond that. Time to get onto those 109s. Just trying to get a little bit of altitude here. I am copying some flak fire from one of the area bombing points. A Spitfire has dropped in and engaged one of the two 109s and done critical damage, so I'm just going to leave that one go. Just turning to observe. They've got that under control. AI, I'll just get rid of that on the way past. It's going to annoy me later. In fact, something's been done with the AI I noticed in 1.41 as well. They tend to swarm individual targets now. You'll see an example of this later. So checking tail, I've got two behind me, but they are a ways out. Don't need to worry about them. The 109 on high is attempting to close in, but it's not going to get here before I manage to engage this BF-109. Now, the one that's actually following in at the moment, he had a massive hard-on for me, and I'm not entirely sure why. It actually gets him killed. You'll see this all in a moment. So 2.3, 2.2. Closing in fast, just tab checking to see exactly how many fighters are still up. Pretty much the entire enemy team is visible at the moment, so I know where they all are. I don't need to go hunting or worrying about aircraft that could potentially dive in from angles that I'm not checking. Not quite enough. Get a hit. There we go. Take the wing. Second kill. Or third if you count the AI. And here comes the 109. Straight over the top, just pull in underneath. Loop it back around, he's turning the opposite direction. Now you can see there are two fighters here. Both of us are moving to engage him. But for some reason this guy was really only interested in me and ignores everything else. Into a scissor. The F pulls in faster than I can, so loop underneath again. Another scissor. Now this guy's flying an F1, so he's actually more manoeuvrable than I am, so he's going to win these scissors fairly consistently at high speeds, but if I can pull him down to low speeds, the 109 will lose its manoeuvrability. So I pull up and let him scissor straight underneath me, turn around to pull in on his tail. He turns back over, and here we are in a game of cat and mouse. He loops up, goes to try and low energy roll over. I do the same. And that's where he messed up. Now I'm on his tail. Crippling hits. Take shots underneath the fighter that comes in to finish the kill. Take off his wing. Third kill of the match. And now we're surrounded by AI, and this is what I was talking about swarming. Once a target's been fixated by the AI seem to follow it until they run out of ammo or fuel. So we've got to start getting rid of these little tow rags, because as much as they are only HE-51s, in large numbers they can do enough damage to an aircraft if they focus on it at the same time to take out even higher level machines. So I remove that one. Come around, there's actually two of them here. They're both swarming onto my wingman here who was helping me out. Pull up behind. Stall the apex. Bring the guns around, put first shot straight into the first target, then turn immediately off as I'm not going to be able to stay there. Regain speed through the dive and turn hard. Bring it around to the second AI. First AI has gone down, kill assist, and I take the second. That brings me up to 6 kills for this match. 3 players, 3 AI. There is 1 player aircraft remaining on the enemy team, however he's RTB at the moment and actually doesn't make it back and crashes, so that is the end of the match. So the results. First place for the team with 6 kills, that's 3 players and 3 AI, 1 assist. Survivor, Terror of the Sky and On Hand awards, 83,680 Silver Lions, 3,051 mod research points and 6,102 air research points on a premium account, no double. And that was enough to finish off the wing repair on the Corsair, so it's now about 2/3 upgraded. Overall, not a bad match. Actually, I don't think I've ever had a bad match in the US Marine Corps Corsair yet. I quite like the plane. It's interesting to try and carrier land it on naval maps when you only have access to a carrier for a runway, but thankfully its ammunition load is large enough that on those maps, if you are very cautious about firing and don't spray anywhere near as much as I did this match, you can make that ammunition load last long enough that you should never have to land. It carries a 45-minute fuel load as well. In most cases, if the match is still going when you're about to run out of fuel, it's probably a lost match anyway. So next up we have the US Premium Ki-61-1b. Now this was one of the first premiums that I ever purchased in the game. I don't fly it very often anymore, mainly due to having better money grinders and, well, for research purposes, where I am in the tech trees now, the Ki-61 is not a particularly effective grinding aircraft. Now we're against the Russians over Korea, and the I-16s already be out to play. These new I-16s, I'm not sure about their flight models, to be honest. They are incredibly fast and incredibly manoeuvrable, even more so than some of the previous variants I've seen in the game. Just making my turn and climbing to altitude, approaching them, well, moving on them at 90 degrees, just working out exactly the most effective way to engage the enemy aircraft. However, the first one is latched on, take it into a defensive half loop. Straight into a vertical climb to pull me out of his guns. Aileron roll part way through. As you can see, the I-16 is having very little issue staying on my tail. I'm managing to keep just at a gun range. Dive to get a little bit of extra airspeed up. I'm going to have to clear out of the area. It is actually an odd situation where you're in effectively a Japanese plane and you're being outmaneuvered, but you have the speed to outrun your enemy. Lag 3 coming over the top. Take it into the vertical for a lead, put some hits into its belly. Immediately aileron roll and full elevation dive. I-16 is still on my tail, heading for the clouds. Pull it back to altitude, go for the next I-16, again hits across the belly, aileron roll, pull it back into a dive. Back out to level, time to use the dive speed to clear away. By the time the I-16s have turned around, I should have enough clearance at 450 plus to be out of the area. One thing I have noticed is the Ki-61 does overheat a little bit faster now. I have had to pull off the WEP. But with the WEP off, the overheating doesn't continue and it will cool down fairly rapidly. Pulling it into a loop. Try and get an angle on that lag 3 that's beneath me. He's billowing smoke from the earlier attack fairly heavily. Shots through. Another hard connection. And there's my I-16 friend. He's nothing if not persistent. Pull back around onto his tail. Shots ahead, fireball. That's him out of the way. Moving back on the lag 3. And he's in a flat spin. He's been taken out. No point continuing. Break off. And I have another ice shack on my tail. Pull back underneath. Tracking targets beneath me at the moment. Nose down to dive. We've got a Yak 7 directly in front. A little wild on the shots there, no really good connections and a lot of ammunition wasted. I just was not giving enough lead on those shots, and more shots coming in from the I-16. Aileron roll and brake. Pull it back into a dive. I'm not turning back on this ice shack mainly because I'd blow way too much energy in order to do so. It's better to have him on my tail trying to follow me and continue moving, eliminating the enemy aircraft that are in front of me that are on the tails of my allies. That will allow them to come back around and clear my tail for me. Try some distance shots. Get a nice solid hit. The X7 breaks away. Another good connection. He's bleeding coolant, so he's taken big damage. Pull around on the tail. Another big strike. And you can see the plane's speed is dropping down. I've done engine damage now. The plane is having trouble keeping it going. And there's the fireball. So that's the Yak 7 cleared out, and the fighter the Yak 7 was pursuing has turned around and engaged the I-16 that was on my tail and taken him out. So that has cleared the area. Time to move back in on the main fight. Now we have a Lag 3 ahead of us, and there is a second fighter that has not been red boxed that is currently in the area. And they only have 2 remaining. There he is. So 2 Lag 3s. Now these are 2 of the enemy's top players, so I'm a little bit more cautious about engaging these guys. Move to bring in on behind. He's sticking low over the mountains, trying to use the cliff tops and the hilltops as cover, breaking direct line of fire to the guns. Aileron roll over to increase my angle of attack. Another burst of crippling damage in. Pull back to altitude. Ready myself to dive back in. An Allied fighter comes through and finishes the job. So that's the second last enemy target down for an assist. Now, the remaining Lag 3 has actually disappeared, and the rest of the team isn't entirely sure where he's gone. Luckily, I know exactly where he is. He disappeared over the mountains. If you'd been watching closely while I was engaging that last Lag 3, he pulled over the cliffs and dove down into one of the valleys, and he's currently working his way around the back of the map, trying to get back to his runway, flying basically on top of the river that travels around the northeast section of the map. So what I'm going to do is fly over to the section of river where it ends, just before it comes in on the Russian runway, and I'm just going to wait for him to show up. So about 5 or 6 minutes have passed. I've been waiting around, and sure enough, here he is, coming down the river trying to make his way home. He seems fairly oblivious to the fact that I'm here. He's still just cruising through and doesn't actually react to my attack until I'm almost on top of him. Just pass over at an angle, turn back. Loop into his tail. He still hasn't reacted. Get nice on just as he's clearing the mountain to head to base. Engage and start putting shots in. Now he knows I'm here. Passes over to the right, I'll take it into a loop. Aileron roll midway through, change angle of attack, give me a nice top-down angle. Loop through onto tail. And shots in. And he's rolled over. That's critical damage to one wing. Follow him around, but this fight is now over. He's trying to keep it above the mountains, but the damage has been too much to his plane. And there we go. And that's the end of the match. So results for the match. Second place, 3 kills, 1 assist, all players. Final blow and on hand awards, 58,380 Silver Lions, 10,780 mod research points, not that it matters on a premium aircraft, and 21,460 air research points on an X2 with a premium account. And that finished off one of the new patch 1.41 B25s. Actually, I think that was the second one being unlocked, and that's all of them done. So not a bad match overall. The US premium Ki-61, I really, as I said, I don't fly it very often anymore. It's no longer a truly effective grinding aircraft. Most of the new planes being introduced are Era 4 or above, excluding this patch, where the Ki-61 just, it doesn't get the reward bonuses required to be able to unlock them effectively. However, that doesn't make it any less of a fun aircraft to fly, and it does make good money. Not as good as some of the higher end premiums, but, you know, 58,000 ain't bad. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed this video. Click like if you do, subscribe if you want to see more, fly smart, fly safe, and I'll catch you in the skies.